Hey, Magic Mirror, who's the fairest of them all?
Why, Shrek, of course.
So, after almost 15 years of Shrek Forever After, a fifth Shrek movie is already in development. But after watching the fourth movie, it kind of felt like it was a perfect conclusion to the franchise back in 2010. Of course, Jeffrey Katzenberg had plans for 5 Shrek movies where the fifth one would reveal how Shrek came to that swamp. However, after producing the fourth, Katzenberg decided to abandon plans and just end the franchise on a high note, asserting that Forever After was the right way for our protagonist's journey to end. I will admit, this was an extraordinary approach for Shrek's adventure to conclude. What else is there to add? I mean, Shrek learned to love himself and let love find him from the first Shrek movie, embrace his identity, attempt to make Fiona's parents like him and maintain love in the second, and then finally appreciating all of his family and friends in the fourth. Yeah, I didn't mention the third one because there is nothing essential that Shrek has learned, and also a considerable disaster that should have never been added to the series. Although the fourth one was deemed to be better than the third, then it's a possibility that the fifth will also be greater than both past sequels. But we don't know, we ain't so sure. I mean, both the third and fourth Shrek movies have been considered somewhat decent. Well, mostly Forever After that I really enjoyed since it was a solid finale to the story, and the third one, a cinematic disappointment, which is not considered mediocre at all, due to the film lacking all of the heart, charm and jokes from the first 2 Shrek movies. So I'm guessing Shrek 5 might as well lack everything from previous installments, but it's also likely that it may turn out to be a stupendous sequel. We can't guarantee it. I don't know whose side I'm on, I either believe it's going to be good or bad. Well, if it turns out to be a pleasant continuation, then I can assume a few things. First and foremost is the timeline. Shrek 5 will be released in December 2026. That's 16 years after 2010. Quite frankly, that's a very long time after the release of Forever After. Not sure if I should presume that the directors and producers have worked really hard and put as much effort as possible throughout all of these years, like the creators of Toy Story, who work incredibly hard on their projects, since it takes them a good 4 years to make an extraordinary sequel for their own franchise. And of course the sequel doesn't come out till it's been like 9 or 10 years after its recent one. The same goes to other Pixar productions, like Inside Out. Inside Out 2 came out 9 years after its predecessor. It's like they put so much effort and commitment into this movie to ensure it outstandingly meets its originality, emotional depth, and memorability, in which it did so. That's what seems to make most of Pixar's productions and their sequels not only a financial success, but receive the same amount of critical acclaim and positive reviews from early installments. These things take time in order to make a successful continuation of their narratives, to ensure they meet their requirements and expectations from past installments, because there is so much to write, so much to plan, so much to cut out and restart, so much to study when it comes to the storyline, the characters and their subtext, their aims, the themes and the objectives. That is why Pixar puts a ton of dedication into their work, ensuring their movies are a marvellous success, because Disney is heart, Disney is art. I mean, DreamWorks is as well, but most or half of their projects they have been working on aren't really full of heart and charm due to their desperate need for money, particularly some of their sequels. A fifth Shrek movie hasn't been made for 15 years, so I guess the team must have put a huge amount of enthusiasm to this project after a very long period of time. I mean, 15 years is very long, much longer when the third Toy Story movie was released 11 years after Toy Story 2. Another thing that may make this installment pleasant is the return of the original cast, and not replacing them, since I doubt there is anyone out there better than the talented Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy, who provide the perfect voices for their character roles. And speaking of Shrek 5, Katzenberg did state that in this continuation, we'll eventually learn how Shrek came to that swamp. So I guess a spoiler alert could be where, I don't know, maybe Shrek narrates the story, talks about his parents and upbringing, how he ended up adapting in his home, which is quite fascinating. Something that I'm looking forward to since we never dived into why the swamp became his home in the first place. We never even got to find out more details about his family life, so there should be something. Or maybe this is the one film where Shrek and his family and friends will meet his parents, and they reveal everything that has happened from the events before the first film. Although, this will not be a prequel, that's all I can presume. Now, moving on to the part where we can assume this continuation will be awful. I'd start with the animation. The animation does not look realistic. I wouldn't say it sucks, but this is not Shrek. They should have brought up the old CG hybrid. But no, this is something else that doesn't quite add up. To me, this looks like a Shrek series, some kind of cartoon animated show they have come up with, so this doesn't feel like Shrek 5 at all. Yet this has really angered a lot of its fans, since everyone is begging for the old animation to return, due to the characters looking scruffy and off-putting, like Donkey for instance. Yet again though, you know what they say, don't judge it before you get to know it. Another issue with this movie is its unoriginality. What I mean by that is, why are there random memes and pictures of Shrek? Why is he seen in a six-pack with his old animated face? That is what I call unoriginal and unrealistic. Like, it kind of seems like that the period Shrek is based in is the 21st century, now in modern society. However, the movie is based in medieval times, so there were no mobile devices or any electronics made during that timeline. Why would that be added in the 15th century? It's not like Shrek and Donkey went back in time to ensure social media has been invented in earlier periods, or Shrek signing another magical contract to Rumpel to make the 15th century period the 21st century. Makes no sense. I hope this movie doesn't turn into Ice Age 5 Collision Course, since that movie was a tragedy, containing so much unoriginality that has infuriated its audiences. Like Scrat using the spaceship, for instance. There were no spaceships during the Ice Age, so why even add that? Scrat's attempts to cause a collision course is also not possible, and the characters having been excessively dramatic further showcases that they aren't being themselves, like Manny becoming too overprotective of his daughter and Sid being too stupid. This type of stuff should not be added in Shrek 5, so hopefully the characters aren't excessively trying to be somebody else, like literally. Another addition that may make Shrek 5 a catastrophe as well is, while judging by who's directing the film, it's not good. But I don't have much to say about Walt Dolan and Conrad Vernon, who are the directors of this project. We had Andrew Addison and Vicky Jensen directing the original Shrek movie, and Katzenberg to have been the producer. Addison also directed Shrek 2 alongside Vernon, which became one of the best, or the best DreamWorks movies of them all. So why would Dawn be directing this movie? It's not like he has the knowledge of the whole Shrek franchise since he's worked on other films before. All he did was provide the voice of Rumpelstiltskin in Shrek Forever After and directed the Trolls World Tour. But since we have Vernon also directing this film, it's possible that he could bring all of the heart and humour back, so we really can't predict how this movie will be, depending on who's directing Shrek 5. In my opinion, it should be Addison and Jensen directing Shrek 5, like Steven Spielberg, who created the first Jaws movie, and once we get a sequel, it turns out to be a disappointment, because it wasn't made by Spielberg, who carries the exact full knowledge and creativity for Jaws. And then finally, I shouldn't compare Shrek 5 to any other DreamWorks movies. Although Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out in 2023 with some amazing visual effects, action sequences, and animation style, it didn't feel like that the Shrek franchise was dead, but about to be revived. So there is a hint that this continuation could be an excellent addition to the series, and the actual final film that will narrate Shrek's personal upbringing, a new idea we have never witnessed before that fans are hoping to see. I don't know if I should say that DreamWorks movies are dead, and that their sequels shouldn't be made if their films are perfect standalones or already have ideal trilogies, but as the years went by, Megamind 2 and Kung Fu Panda 4 were released in 2024, and really failed to meet their audience's expectations, because of their new type of animation, lack of character development, lack of creativity, quick pacing, tedious plot lines, and the loss of their heart and charm, who both turned out to be simple cash grabs. Especially with Megamind 2, who had a different cast. Even though Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate came out nearly 14 years after the first movie, and Kung Fu Panda 4 8 years after the third. I guess Megamind was meant to be a standalone film since there was possibly nothing else to add in the narrative, and Kung Fu Panda 4 a trilogy, rather than having to produce the fourth one due to the franchise that has already run out of steam. There were no additions or new creative ideas needed to be made. Kung Fu Panda 4 is basically a part 2 of Kung Fu Panda 3, because they just took the idea of the spirit realm from the third installment. People are fearing the worst and are now assuming that Shrek could be the next. But once again, we don't know. It's possible that it will be bad or average, but we cannot predict until we watch the actual movie. Because the series has lasted over a decade, it should regain its originality and meet our anticipation. I guess Shrek was meant to be a quadrilogy, especially when it came to the fourth one that had a solid finale to the story. So yeah, what's the point of even making a fifth movie? It's not like Megamind needed a sequel, if it's an exceptional standalone. It's not like Kung Fu Panda needed a fourth edition, although they did have plans for 6 installments. So that means there will be a Kung Fu Panda 5 and a number 6. Oh boy, would you look at that, I can't wait for more. In all honesty, I did kind of agree that Shrek Forever After was meant to be the last in the series because of all of the themes conveyed throughout his journey, and with the film titled The Final Chapter, since I didn't seem to care about Shrek anymore and just focus on other movies. What would be the point of making more sequels? Nevertheless, after rewatching these films and having to have watched the second Puss in Boots movie, it kinda gave me that kind of thrill that they should make a Shrek 5, especially the way the Puss in Boots movie ended, with Puss hinting that he and Kitty are about to see some old friends of his. An indication of Shrek and everyone else that really excited me. It made me want to know what happens next. Plus, if Katzenberg and his team had plans for 5 of those projects, then I kind of agreed that they should work on the 5th, just so they can bring back the nostalgia and all of the new things we await to see, particularly to how Shrek came to that swamp, the very beginning. I even want to know how Shrek has brought up his children and what he's been up to so far after the events of Forever After that used to be my favourite one. So yes, I can't wait. Yet again though, this could be a downfall because of these two, and judging by the rating of the last two Shrek movies. Let me know in the comments of what you all think.